Are you the Instalock Reyna who can't stop lurking?
Yeah, this guy's a real human being.
Or are you the type of player who says you can play every agent but is actually just as equally bad at all of them? Well, it's time to find your real main. I've been helping players rank up for almost 5 years, and finding the perfect agent for you plays a key role in reaching your dream rank. It's not just about picking who looks cooler, but it's about understanding your playstyle, strengths, and weaknesses. So let's break down every role in agent and find your next instalock. The most important role in Valorant belongs to the controller. They're very much needed on every single map, every single time. Their smokes dictate the pace of the game, and their utility is used to both deny and set up site executes. As a controller player, you can play as both an aggressive entry or go for the late game winning lurks. You should main controller if you have a versatile playstyle and have a good macro view of the game. To be able to both lurk and entry, you need to understand the gaps of the other team and always be paying attention to the game situation to place the perfect smoke. If you have an aggressive playstyle, then Clove might suit you perfectly. While all other smokes need to survive late into the game to get the most use out of their smokes, Clove lets you take risks with little to no consequences, as you can still place smokes after dying. However, it requires good mechanics and constantly playing the rotator role on defense. Omen, on the other hand, is for a more adaptable playstyle, where you can take on more calculated risks. You can play aggressively as Omen, using his teleport to fight from high ground.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
Or teleporting in onto a site during the execute. You can also play him passively by smoking and setting up the team before going for the lurk or a flank. You can main Omen if you have an adaptable playstyle and know how to chain TPs and flashes to surprise your opponents. Brimstone is more of a niche pick, and while he's only really meta at the moment on Bind, no one can match his explosiveness. Being able to drop 3 smokes all at once and sim beacon his team into sight before closing out the round with his post-plant Molotov makes him great for set rushes. And on defense, you can constantly delay with the longest smokes in the game and a Molotov to buy time for your teammates to rotate in. You can main him if you like explosive gameplay or winning games through interesting lineups. Now, as for Harbor, he has one of the lowest pick rates in the game. All 3 of his abilities are technically smokes, which make him more of a gimmick pick. However, like Brimstone, he can smoke off entire sites, making him one of the best controllers for straight up rushes. Unlike Brimstone, however, you can't just point and click, and you're going to need to get creative with your smoke usage. Main him if you're a creative player who knows how to play like a rat behind his array of smokes. Viper is creative in another way. Instead of doing everything on the fly, you can be precise with your orb and wall lineups to create interesting setups on defense, or making it complicated for the enemy defenders while you're playing on attack by opening up lurk timings for yourself. If you're a sneaky player who likes to play slow and calculated while denying info from the enemy team before you can rotate in to win the postman for your team, then Viper is a meta pick you can main on a lot of maps. Last but not least, for Astra, she fell out of fashion for a bit, but is still super strong in the right hands. Being able to smoke from anywhere on the map make her the perfect lurk controller. Set up your team from anywhere on the map before punishing rotations or flanks. And on defense, your stopping ability on both sides at once makes rushing super hard for the attackers. Just be prepared to look at the map frequently, because your team might remain silent during an enemy rush. Astra is definitely a main for the lurky controller players. Now, we all have different strengths, and understanding which agent might be best for you can be hard. And getting hands-on help from some of the world's best players is one of the best ways to accelerate your journey to the top. And inside the Immortal Remap program, you'll be able to improve and rank up in just a few weeks. For example, in the current season of the program, in just 6 weeks, Hams started Ascendant 3 and is now Immortal 2. Val Potato started Silver 1 and is now Plat 2. 94BT started Iron 3 and is now Platinum 1. And there are thousands of other students who have gotten insane results like this. We offer a plus 500 RR in 10 weeks or your money back guarantee. If you're tired of feeling lost in your games and you're trying to reach your dream rank, use the link down below to book a free call with me or one of our coaches to see if we'd be a good fit. Now, back to the video. Now, we've covered how controllers can be extremely versatile, but if you want to take on more risks and win games through pure aggression, the Duelist role may be for you. Duelist is a high impact role that lets mechanically strong players shine. They focus on securing the first blood and gaining a numerical advantage from the start. Getting entry kills on attack opens up sites, and opting on defense makes most teams scared to push. So if you trust your aim and instincts, then Duelist is definitely the role you want to main. Going into each agent, Jett is a traditional duelist, with 3 abilities that all help her escape or open up site executes. On defense, you can play aggressive angles and pick off players before escaping without getting untraded. And on attack, your team can set you up to dash in the site and make the Sentinel player wish he picked a different agent. Main Jett if you know how to aggressively take space on both sides, or if you just love the operator. Now for Raze, her mix of movement plus damage abilities make her the most explosive agent in the game. If you love creating chaos by using your paint shells to remove angles, then double satcheling to close the gap, then Raze is the perfect agent. she's best played as a rotator on defense to stop pushes on both sides. Now as for Phoenix, he's more one-dimensional. It's also an easier duelist to play compared to Raze and Jett, since those two agents require mastering their unique movement abilities. Phoenix is the agent with one of the best self flashes in the game, which makes him perfect for pushing through smokes or 90-degree angles. And on defense, he can play as a rotator. When enemies exec on any site, you can simply molly the choke point and flash through the enemy smokes. On attack, while you're unable to dash in, you can still aggressively take map control and burst through smokes, especially if you have your ult. You should main Phoenix if you're looking for an aggressive second entry that has a lot of agency. Now, for Waylay, the newest duelist in the game, brings a lot of interesting abilities. While being unable to dash into a self smoke like Jett, her ability to recall means that if she gets the wrong read on a site exec, she can just leave completely. And on defense, you can use her recall to take aggressive peeks with little risk. She also has a slow ability, which is excellent at stopping a push or setting up a rush. While a little bit of creativity is required, she becomes almost impossible to kill. For Neon, she takes movement to a new level, and she could be a chore to try and shoot most of the time. Unlike most duelists, her speed does not rely on just one quick burst, but she's able to constantly sprint for 90% of the game. This means she can rotate quickly on defense or take space super quickly on attack. She's good with almost all guns in the game, including shotguns, operators, which makes her a versatile agent all around. The only issue, there's a large skill ceiling. If you want to play Neon, be prepared to spend hours watching Temet and mastering her movement to reach the skill needed to make her work. Now, ISO on the other hand is one of the most simplest duelists to play. That's obviously because his main ability is a shield that makes you take one more bullet than usual. However, this doesn't make him great at entering, as her shield may just get molotoved or spammed through smoke, although he does have a lot of util such as his vulnerable to help his team, and he can also isolate 1v1s with his ult. So in short, use ISO if you know how to force duels on your opponent and have the aim to back it up. Now, for Reyna, she's similar to Jett in that she's great for taking off angles on defense and being completely unable to be traded. However, she doesn't have a bailout button, so if you don't get that kill, you're 100% dead. So this means you must be confident in your mechanics. The flash is great on attack for its limitless range, and like Phoenix, you can rotate around on defense, peek with your flash, and get out before the other team can react. Now, Yoru has probably the most complicated skill set of any duelist, and while it might not take large mechanical skills to master, it definitely takes a large amount of thinking to use properly. He's also the main reason Phoenix doesn't see as high of a pick rate, because he's able to rotate 10 times faster and flood sites with decoys and flashes that make him super strong on defense. He's essentially able to play on both sides of the map simultaneously with cross-map teleports. On attack though, you can only entry with a proper setup or a surprise factor, so be prepared to get creative if you wish to main this agent. Now, if entering isn't for you and you don't want to get flamed every time you die on site, then the Sentinel role can provide massive impact through a more passive playstyle. As opposed to the Duelist role, the Sentinel shines in getting info with zero risk or shutting down executes. On attack, your passive info gives you the information required to pull off game-winning lurks or shutting down the enemy flank attempts. Definitely main this role if you like to be creative with your utility and timings and prefer a more passive and safe playstyle. The first two Sentinels I want to talk about are quite similar, Sage and Deadlock. They don't have the same info abilities as the other Sentinel, but they make up for it with their raw abilities to stop pushes and deny the choke. They're able to single-handedly stop a split by walling one side of the site and using their slow or gravnet on the other choke. Sage can be a bit more creative by using the wall to fight from interesting angles and elevation, while Deadlock is more consistent by being able to fight around the sensors. Consider maining one of these agents if you know how to read the opponent and put yourself in the right place to hold the site. As for Cypher, he's the most traditional Sentinel, with 3 abilities that get info with no risks. He's able to move fully around the map and use his cages to dodge utility or deny some info. And like most Sentinels, you're going to need to get creative with your setups. A simple trip will get broken, but a sneaky trip in the right place could net you free kills without even having to move. And on attack, you can use cage lineups to deny info and open up space for your lurks. So main Cypher if you want to counter fast entry agents like Neon, Raze, and Jett. Now, for Vice, she has one of the best Molotovs in the game by both slowing you and damaging you. One simple thorn in the choke can dismantle a 5-man execute, and she has 2 of them. The setup is simple, wall and thorn in the choke, and flash to swing the guy who makes it through. While she lacks the pure info ability of other Sentinels, no one can match her when it comes to holding a site. So consider consider her if you want a simple Sentinel that makes the other team wish they started on defense. Now, after Vice's release, Killjoy has fallen out of favor recently. Vice has better Molotovs and Cypher has better info. However, she's a great in-between agent who could do a little bit of everything. Her turret is great on attack for getting info for the team, and unlike Cypher's cam, you can have your gun out at all times. So consider Killjoy if you like to be adaptable and know how to use her utility to create unstoppable setups. For Chamber, he's completely different to most Sentinels, with only one info trip that is easily breakable. However, he's more like Jett in his ability to easily escape angles. Most players don't really main Chamber, they probably main Duelist and were forced to fill the Sentinel role. However, that doesn't mean he's not strong in the right hands. By being able to disrupt the exec before they even get close to the site, then fall into retake. This means he's great for soloing one side of the map completely alone or getting info by holding deep operator lines. And the final Sentinel agent is Vito. At the time of writing the script, he's just been announced, so he's hard to draw any conclusions, but he's most likely going to be great at getting picks similar to Chamber thanks to his TP, and will also have a decent trip. But his most insane abilities are his ult and his signature ability. His signature ability blocks utility from the enemies and makes it harder to execute sites. For example, you can throw it out onto a site and it'll literally break any Sentinel utility. At the same time, his ultimate makes him invulnerable to enemy utility. So main Vito if you prefer a more aggressive Sentinel and are tired of getting overwhelmed with enemy flashes and nades. Now, besides Sentinels, if you're sick of lurking and want to actively play with your team, then the Initiator role might be the switch up that you need. Unlike Sentinels who get passive info, the Initiator sets up his team by constantly getting info and re-clearing areas of the map. Once an Initiator gets to the site that they want to exec, they can perfectly set up their Duelist to take over the site. While perhaps being the most supportive role in Valorant, the impact of a good Initiator often wins the game on their own. The first two Initiators are very similar, Beta and Sova. They're both great at getting info with a single recon or clearing out areas with a drone or Fade Dog. However, they shine on different maps. On a map like Lotus, with a lot of closed up areas and small choke points, the Fade Dog and Eye is a lot better at clearing space. On the other hand, Sova shines with an open map like Ascent, meaning a single dart or drone can clear an entire site. So main these agents if you'd like getting info for the team, which allows your Duelist to find exactly where to dash in and get the pick. Also, main them if you don't mind learning a bunch of lineups. The next two Initiators have both fallen behind in the meta, Gekko and Skye. These are versatile agents that bring a little bit of everything to the team. Skye has a flash and a dog, so not only can she get info, but she can set up her team to fight with flashes. Meanwhile, Gekko's flash gives info in itself. It has a low cooldown, so it's constantly able to be recycled. Gekko can also have the wingman plant the spike, which means it's great on maps like Icebox or Bind, where planting the spike often means taking a risk. And while these agents aren't seen as much in pro play in the current meta, consider maining them if you find yourself as a solo Initiator and want to be adaptable to multiple scenarios. Now, for Breach and KO, they're probably the two best Initiators for pure site executes. A KO dagger can completely remove all abilities from the site holders, and a well-placed Breach stun can cover a ton of different angles. They both have flashes that can be used to set themselves or their teammates up to get kills. They also both have a blast or Molotov that can clear spots known enemies are sitting in, or you can just delay the bomb defuse in a post plant. Main these agents if you want to enter sites easily, and rather than getting info on attack, you'd rather specialize in setting up your team to completely storm a site. The next agent to be talked about is Teo, and while he was completely broken on release, he's fallen into more of a niche pick. His drone is the longest drone in the game, which is able to clear an absurd amount of space. He has two Molotovs that can be placed with ease, and a stun that's great for 1v1s if you know how to use it. Main Teo if you want a more simple Initiator experience. With an easy to use drone and map controlling bombs, he's a super straightforward pick. Now, we've broken down every agent today and hopefully given you enough info to help you decide who you should be maining. However, a simple agent switch won't make you a cracked Valorant player. So instead for that, check out my other video here where we go through the 8 mechanics required to hit Immortal. Thanks for watching.